Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to Talks with Tatyana. On today's episode, me and a few special guests will be sharing our college experience and giving advice to incoming college freshmen and advice to current college students, while also covering topics about college life from different perspectives. But on today's episode, it's a special episode, so instead it'll be broken up into different segments, giving advice about college life based on our experiences, such as segments covering academics, extracurriculars, outside of academics, such as parties, relationships and friendships, college life with coronavirus and the bad racial climate we're facing, things we were successful and unsuccessful in, and then the do's and don'ts of college. Now, I would like to allow these amazing current college students and recent college graduates the chance to introduce themselves.
So my name is Arielle Moore. I am a rising junior at American University, which is very much a PWI, as I was explaining to you earlier. And I am a theater major communications minor.
Thank you for coming.
Of course, thank you for having me.
My name is Dominique Whitehurst. I got my undergrad from the University of South Florida in mass communications. That's in Tampa, Florida. And then just recently, I just graduated with my master's in sports management from the Florida Agriculture and Mechanical University, or FAMU, as many people know it as. And I'm from Pensacola, Florida. And thank you for having me on your show.
Thank you for coming.
Hi guys, I'm Jailon Henry. I'm from Tallahassee, Florida, and I attend Yale University. It is definitely a PWI. It's an Ivy League school, and I'm a sophomore, and my major is psychology.
Thank you all so much for being a part of today's show. As you all can see, we have different perspectives on here today, from PWI to HBCU to Ivy League. So we're definitely covering all of the bases here. Would you all like to briefly just tell a little bit about your experience at your specific college? We can start with you, Jailon.
So basically I've been at Yale for 1 year, and it's been completely different than anything I've experienced before. One of the biggest things that you hear about Ivy League schools going in is that, they're the top academic schools in the nation. And, I definitely think that in many ways that you're going to learn the same things, but it's definitely different things culture wise. There's definitely, you're learning from different professors that are, that have invented and created and found the stuff that you're researching. And also, you're definitely just interacting with a lot of different people that you probably wouldn't have met before. Definitely a lot of international students, and definitely something I hadn't really experienced before. Definitely a lot of people from way more upper class backgrounds than I've been used to, and it's been overall a great experience.
Thank you for sharing. Arielle, would you like to share?
Yeah, so I am originally from Philadelphia. I forgot to mention that in the intro. And I feel like Philly is like a very sort of like, I would say really like a domestic kind of space, because we really are kind of close knit. Like most of the people that I know are from the city. So leaving the city and like being on my own really exposed me, even though it was like a couple hours away, it exposed me to like a culture and a lot of cultures that I had never really experienced before. So it was like interesting being in DC, interesting sort of like being in this sort of like new area, and a little bit of like what Jailon was saying about being at a PWI and just like being in an area where you're the minority. I mean, of course, we are minorities just being in the area and being in the country that we're in, but I never felt like in my city, like I was kind of the minority. And then going to AU, it was just really interesting seeing that there was just so much more that I had never like been part of. But I think it sort of forced me to go out of my comfort zone And even though it was like more difficult for me to find people of similar or people of different backgrounds, it like really forced me to actually go outside of what I was used to. And I think it's actually been a great experience because it is quite diverse. So I've just been appreciating the social aspect as well as the academic aspect. It is kind of, I guess there is sort of like a Western-ish slant to the way that we learn things and the way that we sort of like learn things in like higher education. So that was kind of difficult for me to get past. But like I said, like I kind of had to just do the work to find my own resources, and that really was helpful.
Yeah. When I was younger, I lived in like the Maryland area, which is like I guess the DMV area. So yeah, it's really a transition to go from somewhere like that that's really diverse to like, but yes, thank you for sharing. Dominique?
For me, when I went to my PWI at South Florida, it wasn't so much of, oh my gosh, I'm at a PWI, it's because I automatically connected with like the like-minded people and like all the Black people within USF. And but of course there is a difference when I'm in the classrooms, because then it's I myself plus one other African American. And I didn't have my first college professor that was Black until my senior year of being with my PWI. But so then when I transitioned to HBCU, it was a whole different dynamic, because then now it's like there's more like-minded people that look like me. And so much now when I speak, I'm not speaking for the entire Black race, versus when I was at USF, now I'm speaking for Dominique. And like you feel more confident, you feel more prideful about yourself. Because yes, I was still confident in myself when I was at USF, and it wasn't so hard for me to fit in, but it's just more of an ease when you're around people that look like you and talk like you and act like you. And it just shows you the dynamic that work's been thrown around between us three. And honestly, I didn't really have a hard transition period between me being at my PWI and being at HBCU, because I loved it, through organizations, through my friendships, through my jobs, the connections that I've made. It really honestly made my time there easier. But like I say, like the culture, it's a culture shock. I mean, here, like legitly from me coming from USF to FAMU, it was legitly a huge culture shock that of course I had to adjust to. But overall, yes, there's differences, but I feel as though my experience personally wasn't really a big, oh my goodness, if I had to choose one I would go to. Like, I am who I am today because of my PWI and my HBCU. So.
Right. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Before we get into the advice segments, I wanted to just do a little Q&A. So first, I'm going to ask you guys some personal questions about your college experience. I know you guys kind of already touched on some of the things, and then I'll ask some questions to the whole group. So Arielle, I will start with you. What has been your experience being a minority and a woman at your PWI?
I think it has been like challenging in a good and a bad way. Like, it's been frustrating really trying to sort of like make myself heard, because a lot of teachers, even POC teachers, have this sort of notion that like you still have to prove yourself, or you still have to, like, as a Black person, still like Dominique was saying, like you have to speak for your entire race, which I feel like is so belittling and so frustrating. But it was something that I kind of had to recognize, like, this is not going away. I have to learn how to deal with this. And it was also good that there was, I think at AU, but I don't know if this is like a common theme at PWIs, but I think that there is a tight-knit Black community, and like, or at least that I've been able to like find and be able to build, because we're sort of, like united in our experiences, and we're really good at being able to advocate and fight for each other. So that was helpful, like relying on like their resources and relying on each other to sort of like help and uplift each other through, navigating this kind of social and like academic climate. But yeah, like just trying to advocate for myself and trying to like find my voice. Also as a theater major, because I had never I kind of took theater classes before in high school, but I never really was like very engulfed in the world of theater the way I am now. So it was hard for me to find my voice in that way, and it was hard for me to find my vulnerability, because you rely so much on your vulnerability when you're acting. And as someone who is not from the city, who is the only Black girl in this classroom, it's hard for me to be vulnerable. It's hard for me to really show my emotions, because where I'm from, I'm not really used to all of that. So it was hard for me to kind of overcome that at first. But I really just had to say I'm not a background character. I'm not a stereotype. You're not going to pigeonhole me in this way. I really just had to fight for myself and recognize that I do have a place here. I have a seat at this table. It's just really something that you have to sort of drill into everyone that you are you encounter.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, especially being in two very underrepresented parts of being not only Black, but being a woman too. It's very much so always advocating for yourself. So I definitely feel that. How do you feel like you've progressed since first starting college and now being a junior?
I actually feel like I progressed a lot, because I've been able to sort of scope out my own resources. I've been really able to network a lot better. And like I was saying, where I am in my university, I kind of have to carve places out for myself. So I'm really good at just being able to navigate sort of uncomfortable or different situations. So I think that's really helpful. Also, I feel because I am I think we can all attest to this, college and just being in your major really helps you to sort of be really specific in the way that you learn things. So I think I've really grown as an actress, which is exciting to see. A lot of my friends who study political science or international relations are well, I don't really see it paying off as much, just because I think within the arts, since you're sort of it's a lot of repetition, and you kind of have with visual arts specifically, you get to see the feedback. So I think it's been interesting being able to sort of see my growth, visibly see my growth as an actor. So it's just, you're gonna get a multifaceted experience in this kind of growth when you're at university.
Right. Yeah, I definitely think the majors that are journalism and acting, they definitely get a lot of hate towards it, because people are kind of what are you going to do with that career? But yeah, I'm glad that you have found your growth in that. And then lastly, what is some brief advice that you can give about college life, since you've been in college for 2 years now?
Number one, don't go to frat parties. That is kind of a baseline rule. And also, I really did not realize, I mean, of course, people don't grow overnight, but I was really naive thinking that people would sort of go to college being adults or being mature, which is people still don't wash their clothes. People still don't know how to, act civil in the the food or the cafeteria line. I'm just come on now. You know what I mean? So I think just trying to recognizing that not everyone has that kind of home training. Not everyone is as mature as you are is a piece of advice that you should probably stick close to, because it hit me a lot harder than I thought. And also, I didn't realize this until it was maybe too late, but it was quite late. Office hours are actually really helpful, and they actually are sometimes the difference between a passing grade and a failing grade. I think having a good relationship with your professors, even sometimes if it feels like it's impossible, I guess it's different. If your professor is actually difficult and is not a toxic person, maybe steer away from that. But going to office hours, really trying to advocate for yourself and build a relationship with your professors is a really, really important way to sort of maintain your academic success.
Thank you for all of that. I definitely agree with all of that. Especially like I always say that it was a culture shock that some people are really just raised a lot differently than you. So yeah. All right. So Dominique, now I have a few questions for you. How would you say college life changes as you get older? Like the closer you get to graduation and you start taking classes that are more your major and not prereqs?
Um, like we all go to school for what we want to do when we grow up, or at least we think we do. So like for me personally, like yes, I was in my prereqs, but I was just like, okay, let's just get this over with. Like I didn't really like start embracing my college journey until I got to my journalism classes and to my reporting classes, because that's what I do. That's what I love to do. But honestly and truly, like those in my mind, those were the classes that mattered more to me versus my prereqs. Because like I said, like that's what I wanted to do. And these are the skills I'm going to need in order to build myself to be the success that I dream that I can be. And after I graduated, like everything I've learned versus everything I learned outside the classroom, I was able to bring it back together in full circle. But as you get older, the stakes are higher for you to want to go back to school. Me personally, it was a very hard decision for me to go to get my master's, because I'm in work, I'm starting my career, I'm in my career job, I'm starting to build myself so that I can able to get more jobs. And so it's like, do I stop what I'm doing now and all that I've learned, take a pause to go learn more education? Will I still be relevant? Will I still be a competitor in my field? Like, yes, I'm getting a master's, and that's going to just increase my pay grade, but it's like my skill level. And like I said, it's a hard decision, but once you do it and you see the benefits of it and you start to reap the benefits from it, you all see what happens. But I always tell people, like, I know you want to do this career. I know you want to do the math and the Englishes and the readings, but like, get it done. That's why I always preach like dual enrollment to college students who are just going. Like, if you can do it while you're in high school, do it. If you can get that AA while you're still in high school, do it, because then you'll just jump right into your major classes, and then you'll understand, like, this is what we do. Like, we do this. This is why we do it. And like I appreciated college, my undergrad, during my 4 years, but it's like I didn't really start having fun in my classrooms until I was able to go out in the field and do reporting, go out in the field and like see myself on camera and learn how to do this and that. And so it's just like, you just have to like just do the course until you can get to what's fun.
Right. Yeah. And then I know you just talked about how you went from undergrad to PWI, or you did your undergrad at a PWI, and then you did your grad at HBCU. So did you feel like a transition in like the drive for getting your degree stuff, like with that transition?
Oh, most definitely. Like when I was applying for my master's, I knew I wanted to go to HBCU because, like I say, I already had my PWI experience and I loved it. But it's just like, let's see what's on the other side of the hill. Like I got this 4 years. I've got all I needed to do. So it's like, let's see this experience on the other side. And but the thing is, for my major, there's not that many HBCUs that offer sport management, and I think FAMU is like one of the 2 or 3 that offer that program. And so I knew FAMU was a choice, and FAMU has always been a school that I've always wanted to go to. It was one of my picks during undergrad, but I decided to go to USF instead. And so, of course, when the opportunity came up again for me to go to FAM, of course, I was going to take the opportunity. But like I said, it's definitely different. It's a culture shock. I keep saying that, but it's like I say, it's like when you go to a PWI, when you see Black people, you're like, okay, you're black, so we could be friends. And that's the only thing that bonds us together before we start seeing people. But when you go to a HBCU, everyone around you looks the same. And so now it's like, okay, I'm your friend because of A, B, C, and D, not just because you're Black. And so it's like, it's very different, but your undergrad self and going to college and getting your master's degree self is totally different. Like, your mindset's different. The way you approach things are different because now you're an adult. They expect you to act like an adult. They expect you to have this big full-time job in order to pay for all of this. And so it wasn't so much when I went to I was trying to make as many connections as I can, like go to as many parties as I can, hang out, join it, like, versus when I was at my PWI, because I have 4 years. Here I only have a year and a half. And so it's like, you gotta get down, nitty-gritty, do what you gotta do and go to the next thing. And so yes, it was different, but not so different because I was going from a PWI HBCU. It's just different because I've grown up more, I've matured more, and so like I now had a new expectation. So
right. Yeah. So you basically covered, I guess, my next question about going from grad to or going from undergrad to grad. You said that it definitely is a huge transition, which I can only imagine. So did you ever feel like when you went to your HBCU, did you ever feel obligated to explain Black culture to a non-minority?
No, not really, because I mean, if you're a non-minority going to HBCU, you already know what you're stepping into. You're stepping into a completely Black university or college. And so it's like, if I have to explain to you, and if I don't explain to you, I guarantee you someone in your classroom is going to explain it to you. It's going to be explained to you through the curriculum. It's going to be explained to you through your professors. It's like, the unspoken is spoken at HBCU versus like at a PWI, you have to like stepping on eggshells. No, at HBCU, the eggshells are being broken. They're being torn apart. Like it's a open more platform. Like, cause like one thing about FAM, they have really taught me, like, if you feel like something needs to be said, stand firm on it, like stand flat footed and spell out what you have to say. But my classrooms, there wasn't really many minorities in my classroom, and the ones that I did have, they knew what was up. And so there was no need for explaining. There was no need for having like that eye that you have to, because I guarantee you in the PWI, that one person you have to give like that, okay, like that side eye to. But in my classrooms, nah. In at HBCU, I guarantee they'll put you in your place real quick. Like right after the words are spewed out, someone puts you in your place.
Right. Understandable. And then what is some brief advice that you can give about college life, since you've graduated both undergrad and grad school? You have both of those experiences. So any advice that you have for that?
Of course, have fun. Like these years, we're in our early 20s, like mess up. It's okay if you mess up. It's okay if you, at your 4-year mark, you got your degree and you're like, I don't think I want to do this anymore. It's okay. Like there's no one holding, like, and it's okay if you see everyone getting all these big jobs, you see everyone being successful, and you're still moving back home, going 80. Like it's okay. Like no matter how many no's you get, it takes one yes for you to soar and for you to fly. I've learned that like you have to have fun. Understand that everyone ain't your friend. It's like it's quality over quantity. Like to this day, I have my my 3 friends I've known. We've met freshman year, and to this day, like we've been weddings, like we master's degrees. Like I'm telling you, they were my roommates all through college. Like if you get your solid friendship that can rock with you through the ups and downs. So I'm telling you, colleges have your ups and downs. You get that faithful few that can go to the party. The faithful few is gonna take care of you after the party. That's gonna go to the library. Like friendships that was like my major thing, because you're away from home. And so anything that can help you feel like family when you're away from college, embrace that, keep that, and never doubt yourself. Like, because you're gonna doubt yourself a lot, and never let someone turn you from what you believe in. Stand firm in your beliefs, and whatever that back of mind, that conscious in the back of your head, listen to that. Like, listen. If especially in these days that we're living in, like you have to be extra super duper careful. And like I said, just have fun. Like everybody that's with you ain't for you, and you have to understand that. I learned that so quickly. Everybody that's with you ain't for you, and once you understand that and understand like your timing will come. Like you don't rush the process, because you're gonna miss it. If you're running, you can't see what's in front of you, behind you, on the side of you. So just walk your race. Don't run it. Just walk it. Understand the doors that need to be open will be open for you. Point blank. Period.
Yes, Dominique, thank you. Okay, and then lastly, Jailon. So my first question for you is, what has been your experience being a minority and a man at a Ivy League school?
It's definitely been very interesting in many ways, being that, for one, I think Black people make up like at most 7% of Yale's population. And then, there's different claims to diversity and stuff like that, but it's overall not a hugely diverse school. And, that can definitely be kind of daunting at times because you see yourself and you might be one of the few Black people in your lectures, one of the few Black people in your seminars. And it can be interesting, One thing that I've enjoyed about my Yale experience so far is that even though there aren't a huge amount of Black people, it doesn't feel like there is a shortage of them. And, I've definitely made a lot of friends with the Black community at Yale is very tight knit, definitely because of the fact that there's so few of us, we kind of have to stick together in that way. But it's been very different because, especially in my high school was basically 50-50, Black and white, and, other minorities as well. But just going back to being such a minority has definitely been a culture shock for me.
Right. Yeah. And then what has discrimination been particularly bad at Yale, because it's an Ivy League, which is like kind of a step up from regular PWI. And I know, like, we went to the same high school, and I remember people were even like, "Oh, like Jailon's going to Yale, like he probably got in on like a football scholarship and everything." So, like, yeah, how is the discrimination? Like, is it worse, or do you think it's worse?
I think it's definitely been different. For one, I've only experienced maybe one or two blatant instances where people were, disrespectful to me in some way, or, I kind of felt that condescending tone. And, in that case, being who I am, I'm going to respond. But, so it's been interesting. I don't think that it's been worse necessarily than, some of the things that we've experienced, in the South in high school, but it's been different. Definitely people try to treat you differently, or people look at you differently, or they try to invalidate your accomplishments, or invalidate your blessings because, they feel like they did more than you to get in, or they did, or their parents had more money than you, so, you don't deserve to be in the same position. And because of that, I definitely felt a little bit of discrimination, and you can definitely see it in certain circles, and you can definitely see it because I'm just I played football at Yale, and because of that, you can tell we're bigger than most of the other people, and so when we're walking around, you definitely get the look sometimes, and it's just like it's kind of you get the side eyes, you get the it's them, whatever, and it's definitely something I've learned to live with, something I've learned to ignore. Obviously, when it's direct, I can deal with that. But if it's somebody, just being kind of indirectly disrespectful, it's definitely something I've just had to move past from and work for myself. And, it definitely it's kind of touched on to this thing that I learned about called imposter syndrome. And when you feel like maybe you haven't done as much as the person next to you, and that you don't deserve to be there. And, it can really tear you up sometimes thinking about it because, it kind of touches on your insecurities. You're like, maybe I don't. But, the more you realize that at the end of the day, you're doing the same work in these classes that, all these other people are doing, you really have to find it in yourself to understand that, you're doing just as much and you're valued just as much as the university as they are. And so that definitely helps me deal with that discrimination that I face.
Right. Yeah. And then you just touched on being an athlete. What has been like you kind of touched, on being an athlete at an Ivy League school. So do you have any advice in general about going to an Ivy League school, and just advice about college, and then also just advice for any incoming athletes that are going to college?
So I will say I'm actually so the Ivy League works a little differently. We don't work on scholarships, so I actually decided that I would stop playing this next semester, with everything going on. And Ivy League also canceled their season. And so basically for me, the biggest adjustment that I had to make was learning how to manage my time. They always tell you that time management is a huge part of being an adult and a part of being a college student. But, when you come in as an athlete and you have, like huge time commitments daily for your sport, And then you also have, these rigorous academics that you're staying up all night studying for. It can definitely take a toll on you. And I think, the biggest thing you have to worry about as an athlete or just as a regular student in general would definitely just be time management, understanding that, for one, and it goes both ways, time management, saying that you need to make sure you have time to do your work, but also time management in the way that you need to find some time to relax and find some time to, calm yourself down. Because if you work yourself too hard, I mean, that can be just as bad as not working enough, because you could burn yourself out. And so for me, that's the biggest thing from my experience that I've learned, just trying to manage my time better and try to use resources, because it's definitely a hard thing to both try to manage your time and try to, reach out. But it's important to try to reach out for help when you need it, especially when you're in this kind of situation.
Right. Yeah. Definitely agree. Thank you all so much for sharing your comments and your experiences. And so now, before we get into the advice segment, I just had a couple of group questions just for all of us to be able to answer. I'll be answering some of them as well about my college experience, because I feel like these will be able to help other college students as well. So my first question, and I guess I'll start with mine, is what made you choose your college, and was it your dream college? For me, I chose the University of Florida. Honestly, I don't know if it would have been my dream college if I didn't live in Florida, but when I found out more detail about the journalism program, and when I found out more about it being the top school in Florida, I was like, okay, this might be the one for me. And then also, I didn't want to stay at home, so I was like, this is a nice 2-hour drive, so it's not too bad. I can go home when I need to. But overall, I did not think I would get in, but I did. So I guess this was, my dream school.
Actually, no. My dream college was Carnegie Mellon, just because I love their theater program, and it's just known for being really extensive. But I liked American's theater program because it was all encompassing. I'm able to do stage managing, which is kind of a nightmare. But I heard that it's a lot of work, but it can be fun. And I'm able to do just different aspects of theater, like directing, stagecraft. I think it's really helpful to have just a really multifaceted view of theater. So I think that's been really helpful, even though it's not my first choice.
For me, to be truthful, I don't either really know why I chose South Florida as my school. They accepted me, and I was like, okay. And I already had family that was down there, so I was like, my cousin's down there, so let me go on down there too. And that from where I live in Pensacola and Tampa, it's a 6-hour drive, and so that was a real. That was horrible. I'm not gonna lie to you, but and plus, honestly, what took me over was when I toured the school and see how beautiful the campus was. I was like, yeah, this is a beautiful campus. So let me go, and then everything else just kind of sort of fell in line. But when it came to picking my master's program, I was like, I can't do 6 hours back and forth again. I cannot do six hours. So that's why I was looking in Georgia, because Georgia is actually closer to Pensacola where I am versus any other place in Florida. So I was like, okay, I can drive to Georgia or Alabama. And so then FAMU came, and 2 hours versus 6 hours was great. So I was able to hop back and forth on the road if I needed to, go to the weekend, come back. I don't have to wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning like I had to driving from Tampa. But that was my reason, and I love them. I love them both. So,
all right.
I think Yale wasn't my dream school. I actually hadn't even. Honestly, I didn't know much about Ivy Leagues before my junior year. I probably heard about them, a couple times. I knew they were supposed to be really good schools, but I hadn't even, it wasn't even something I was really, considering. It wasn't really in my wasn't even in my imagination at that point. But I think my dream school was Duke. I really loved Duke, and it was something about the campus, just the area. Even though Duke is also a PWI, and it was very white too. But I thought, I did a campus tour there when I was younger, and so that was my standard for schools. But then when I came down to choosing, I had a couple different Ivy League schools that I was looking at, and then at the end it came down to FAMU and Yale. And I had dual enrolled at FAMU my senior year, and so I was familiar with it. I loved the campus, but I think the biggest factor for me was just I needed to get away from home, experience something different. And Yale is like it's like if you were driving, it's like 15 hours from Tallahassee. It's far, but it was definitely something completely different. Definitely a complete change of scenery. And when I got to campus and just saw it, it was definitely I was sold. I was ready at that moment. So.
Yes. What influenced you guys to choose your major, and did you change it at all? For me, I chose broadcast journalism. At first, I was like trying to decide what I wanted to do because I went back and forth a lot. Like I was like, maybe I want to be a nurse, maybe I want to be a lawyer, maybe I want to be a teacher. Then I was like, okay, realistically, I'm really good at writing and I'm really passionate about advocating for other people. So I was like, you know what, like journalism might be the one. And I took creative writing in my senior year. And I wasn't even supposed to take that class. It just was there. And like, I needed another elective, and so I took it, and it was the best decision because the teacher that I had there, she kind of pushed me into looking into journalism, which is why I chose it. And as far as ever changing my career, I probably won't because I just don't see myself really wanting to do anything else or being as passionate for anything else. So, yes. Did you guys? What made you guys choose your majors?
I really had no interest in acting until like my freshman year of high school, and then my high school didn't like actually have a theater program, but I took we had a drama class as an elective, which I was like, that's kind of strange. But I took it, and at first I hated it, and then I ended up loving it, and then I just ended up studying theater throughout my high school experience. I just did dual enrollment at my local community college, and that was really great exposure for me. And also, like, I kind of was able to see that acting could actually be a career, like theater performance could actually be a career. Just because like I don't come from a family that's really artistically inclined. So it was kind of me going out of my comfort zone. And even when trying to figure out my major in college, like when I was applying, I sort of put it in the back of my mind as not really being realistic until I sort of, I don't know, I think I just kind of stepped out on faith. Like for most of the schools that I applied to, I applied as I think like creative writing or something, just because I was like, this could be more feasible, which I don't know how, but like it could be more feasible, I guess, because I'm really just not like, I don't see myself doing really anything else. And I applied to, I think, either like one or two schools with theater, because I was like, you know what, I might as well just do it. And I actually ended up just getting into the schools that I applied to as a theater major. And I was like, maybe it's a sign, you know?
Right.
And I have really not like been upset with my choice since. It's like I was saying, like it's just completely different from anything that I thought I would be doing and anything that I have been doing. And it's been challenging me, I think, for the better. So yeah.
For me, why did I want to get into broadcasting? I like to talk, and I couldn't really do anything else. Like I sucked at sciences. I was horrible in chemistries and the bios and the math. So I was like, well, can't do anything with those three. But I feel like once I was in yearbook, and I was always a sports editor for the yearbook, and I was horrible at being an athlete. So I was like, okay, I love sports and I love being in journalism. So let's try to put those two things together. And so then I was like, okay, Stuart Scott's one of my favorite sports broadcasters. So I was like, okay, that's what I want to do. I want to be the next Stuart Scott. And then I tried it, and it didn't work out. And so I was like, all right, on to the next one. So it was like my senior year of being at USF, and that's when I started being in director booth and producing. And it was still sports. I was directing sports broadcasting. I was directing sports shows, and I was like, this is what I love to do, because like Tatyana said, it was just like you love advocating for people. And for myself, I just love to show the athlete like outside of his or her uniform. And I just love bringing information to the culture. And that's what I love to do. Like, I feel as though there's some people who are led with the dollar sign, and then there's in dollar sign and security, and there's people who are led with passion. And yes, there are times when I'm just like, man, I wonder what my life would be like if I took on, a doctor, or took on a field that's more secure. I was like, I'll be bored. Like, I'll be bored, and I'll be regretting what I did. And so I love the choice that I did. I chose journalism because it's my passion, and I chose specifically sports broadcasting because I love sports. I was horrible at being an athlete, and it was just like the best of both worlds. So that's why I chose it.
Right.
I chose so going in, I'm sticking with my psychology major as of right now. I'm only this is only my second year of college though, so I mean, obviously that could change. But I came in originally trying to go pre-med, and I was thinking, I could do this, I could be a doctor. And then I kind of started losing passion for it a little bit, and then I got into my first chemistry class, and it whooped me. I was not even because I had taken biology at FAMU, and I was like, I got an A. I was like, I'm in there. I'm like, I got this, But then I got to chemistry, and I was like, all right, never mind. I was like, I don't know. I was like, I started to think about it and reevaluate what I really wanted to do. And the more I thought about it, I don't really want to be like an actual doctor, a hands-on doctor, but I do want to be in healthcare. And so what I kind of decided on, which is what I kind of decided on before I even came to school, but it kind of it became more clear, was I wanted to go into hospital management. And I definitely want to still be, involved in the healthcare system and, providing healthcare for people. And that's definitely, I feel like my passion. I've done a lot of things. So, and I definitely want to be able to give back to communities. So, I feel like being able to, get into healthcare management and help lower costs for patients and hospitals, in order to provide better healthcare. That's something that I'm interested in doing. And so, I feel like for me, Yale doesn't offer a business major. And psychology has been a passion of mine since like junior year. I took one psychology class, in my high school, took one, at FAMU, and, just kept on taking them at this point. And I just feel like, that's definitely something I can see myself majoring in and finishing. And I don't think I would change that. I definitely feel like it's a passion, something I'm interested in. The only thing I would add, I'm thinking about double majoring in African American studies. Because that's another passion of mine. I love Black people, and I don't know, it's something I'm interested in. I definitely want to be able to just read more things, by African American researchers and authors, and obviously I'm very rooted in African American studies, I guess myself. I've lived my own life, but at the same time, I just want to get a different perspective, and I feel like it would add a lot to my overall experience.
Right. And then this next question is kind of like two in one, but do you guys feel like your high school prepared you for college? And not only like did your high school prepare you for college, but do you think that college life would be different than what you actually experienced? For me, I feel like high school it kind of prepared me, but I feel like more so the AP classes prepared me, not in a way like the work. I feel like the work was really unnecessary, some of the stuff we did, but I feel like as far as like having to stay up late and like the workload, like that prepared me for college. And I definitely thought college life would be a lot different than what I experienced, like based off of what I saw on like some of my older friends, like on their social media, and just some of like the college movies and shows and stuff. Like I thought it would be a completely different ball game, but yeah, it was not that. So what would you guys say?
I feel like high school like did its best to kind of prepare me because I went to a college preparatory high school, which it was just a high school. I mean,
yeah.
Well, I think the like really confusing thing about my school was that we were project-based learning, so we didn't have tests, but we were college preparatory, which I just didn't understand because it's like, how y'all gonna teach me how to prepare for a test that I'm not taking? Like, I don't get it. So that was, I mean, I knew how to take a test, but I was very rusty on like studying tactics. So that was really a culture shock for me. And that's kind of what high school didn't provide for me. Also, just because I didn't really have a, theatrical high school training, like that kind of was also something that I had to learn mostly on my own or rely on school to provide. But also I think I feel like we can all attest to this, like in college, you just have much more free time, or you have much like less time when you're in class. Like when I was in high school, I used to be getting up at like 7:30 to be prepared to like do work all day. And then in college, it's so weird. Like you can get up at like 11, go to class at 3, be done by 5. Like, and I'm like, what do I do for the rest of the day? It was just really confusing to me, just like trying to figure out a schedule or like trying to figure out like how to, not like take a nap for the rest of the day. But, yeah.
For me, like on a social level, high school did not prepare me at all. It's gonna be like I had my friends when I was in high school, but it was just like your classroom friends. Like you don't see them outside.
Yeah, right.
When you're in college, like your friends become your family because you see them every single day. You see them in between classes. You see them in class. You see them walking down. And so on the social level, no. Like the academic level, I was in the IB program, and that's like the International Baccalaureate program. And that program, I mean, like I say, like Tatyana said, like unnecessary work. That's what we got, unnecessary workload of work. And so like I was used to like the long nights like that. So that wasn't new to me when I got to college. But overall, did high school prepare me for college? No, I mean, it taught me what I want to do.
I feel like it prepared me in some ways. From just some of the classes I took, I definitely felt like some of the knowledge carried over, and some of the study study skills carried over. But overall, I think, I will blame myself a little because I definitely tried to take certain classes to avoid certain things. But, overall, it was just so different. I think that one thing I will say is dual enrollment definitely helped me a lot just to get a feel for what different college classes workloads would be like, and just, what was expected differently. But, just my regular high school classes definitely didn't do much to prepare me, I feel like. And I will say, maybe the social aspect, I completely agree with you on how, like, you have your school friends, and I definitely have friends, outside of classes too, I would hang out with, but like, you just don't hang out with them the same amount of, the time that you spend hanging out with your college friends, like you don't sit there and you don't every day, go to your friend's house or go to your friend's room and, do that. But in college, all you gotta do is call your friend, walk down the hall, walk across, campus or whatever. And y'all can do whatever, I mean, it's definitely just so much different. And I think that was a pleasant surprise because high school definitely had me a little worried about, what was going to be different. But I think it didn't prepare me all the way, but I don't think the adjustment was that bad anyways.
But like, I think that friendship dynamic is like really important when you're in college, because it's like I can legitimately call, girl, what you doing? Oh, you in class? Okay, I come sit with you. Like it's like those things. It's like how you say it, like that schedule thing. It's just like, okay, my friend's in class, but I'm out of class, so let me go sit in class with her for a little while, and then we can go eat. We can go to the caf. You go down to the caf. It's just like, and you would think you'll get sick of seeing your friends every single day, but it's like when that's on people that you know and you see. It's just like, hey, I'm in it. We struggling together. Like, we're going to go to the library. We're not going to do anything, but you're in the library. I'm going to go too. And so it's definitely different. Like in high school, y'all just together in class because y'all got the same thing. But no, in college, y'all go through some things together. Like y'all are like, y'all experience some things together that you keep to yourselves until the day you die.
I don't know why college. This is gonna sound like so crazy, but I feel like college has made me like less thrilled about group projects. Like I don't know why in high school I was like, you know what, I'm okay with taking initiative. Now I'm like, who gonna do this slide? I can do it on my own time now.
Because in college, because in high school, like everyone in your classroom, so it's okay if you get, but like when you're in college, it's like the professors already put you in a group, or you just put yourself in a group with the 3 people that sit next to you, and then 9 times out of 10, 1 out of them 3 people gonna fold, and they're not gonna show up until the day of the project. Yeah. It's like, do I put your name on this project and let you get this grade after I put all the work in, or do I just be petty and be like, I don't know about this. I've done that plenty of times. Like I never did the project, and homie, he didn't come to the whole project, and so I was like, you ain't show up, so your name didn't show up on the project. And so the professor was like, what happened? I was like, homie ain't show up, so his name didn't show up on the project. Like, in high school, it's like, no, we're gonna let you do what you gotta do. In college, no, that's what my time because I'm paying for this class.
Exactly. I feel like college overachievers are just on another level. I'm like, I truly wish I had that same kind of stamina, because I don't know, I think there's like of course there's like a competitive nature in like all academic spaces, but I feel like college people really push it to the edge. Like, I don't know if y'all noticed this, but in class, it's always the people who gotta type really loud or gotta clank that hydro flask. I'm like, you get it, you're learning, you know what I mean? So I think that really, like, especially within a group project setting, sometimes it's like, I think you want to do the majority of the work, so I will let you. I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm contributing. I'm also usually the person who does the presenting, because as like a communications minor, like that's, kind of my field. So like, I'm okay with that. But I think also just like this realm of overachievers and this realm of people that like need to prove themselves in like an unrealistic way, they sort of end up just really taking the reins on projects, which I'm like, do that.
Go ahead. You got it.
And then my last question, before we get into the advice, I wanted to just ask you guys, I know that there is a lot of like inequality within the education system, which I talked about in episode 4 of my podcast. So do you guys feel like you experience a culturally diverse education, or do you feel like you don't learn as much about Black history? And like, do you feel like we need to have more of it implemented into our education? For me, I think I was actually kind of shocked. I feel like I have learned quite a few things that I didn't know about Black history in a few of my classes. Like we had to take a What is the Good Life class, which is, I don't know, it was just like a class where we had to learn how to live the good life. Like you have to take the class to understand. And then we had to, in my religious class, learn about the background behind why Black people are usually Christian and like things like that. So I feel like I've kind of learned a little bit, but as far as like high school, middle school, no, not really. And I do feel like they should implement it more, but yeah. What do you guys think?
I feel like I learned most about Black history in high school, just because I went to a predominantly Black high school. I feel like I went to a predominantly Black middle school too, and that didn't really, like, there wasn't really an emphasis on Black history, because I think for like middle school, elementary school, there's kind of this notion that like young children can't handle stories of oppression or can't handle history of negative or like slavery, genocide, like, which is not true, you know what I mean? So high school, I think, really helped to dismantle a lot of the ideas that I had about the Black experience, about Jim Crow, slavery, civil rights. Like I really was able to learn a lot. And then of course I was inspired to do sort of my own learning. And I also was really inspired by my Black friends to, be involved in a lot more, just like learning more and like just being involved in more community and just like Black community wide like projects and things like that. But college, well, I mean, I really don't get as much of a sort of like historical or like political like view that I would really like, just because of just like what I'm studying. And even in theater, like there's such a European like way of thinking, a way of doing, like there's like the Stanislavski method, the like Uta Hagen like method of like acting, or of like, the way that you perform, which are all sort of like white Western ways of thinking of acting, which is like, that's cool and fine, but it's very regimented and it's very like object exercises, which is just sort of trying to create a realistic view of acting rather than like using like acting with your body, or rather than which those tend to be much more like those tend to be like outside of the American or European view of theater and of performance. So I kind of had to like go outside of that to engage in those kinds of art, which I personally appreciate better. Also, we really don't get that many texts from outside of, like I was saying, like European, theater. Like we don't really get to do that many African or South American or Asian plays, which is also frustrating. So yeah, I have to sort of go out of my way to get Black history and to get the BIPOC history.
Right.
There's always opportunity and there's always room to learn more about African American history. And like Arielle just said, she has to go out of her way at her institution to learn more about her upcoming, like basically her African American history. And like that's a sad thing to say. Like no matter what level you're on, you can learn about African American history. If they can start you as low as elementary and teach you about American history, you can show that there's more than just Sojourner Truth and Dr. Martin Luther King.
Right.
Point blank. And especially when you're in college, like yeah, we have like the basic African American lit and we have the basic African American history classes, but like there's more to us than that. Like we're such a diverse race that you can teach us more. And I feel as though the time that we're living in now, like the stuff that's been going on just this year, has proven how much we thought we knew about ourselves, but we still like, even with like the big thing of Juneteenth, like even myself, I had to relearn about this holiday and about like what it meant to us and the meaning behind it and why we should be pumped so heavy for it. And it just shows like if that's taught in the classroom, because that's not taught, like in all of my teachings, that was never taught to me. Like I had to go out my way to say, to learn about something that should be taught in the classroom, should be taught in the textbooks. And it's like, I feel as though now this should have been like, you would think it's a wake up call that they're going to start initiating this. But of course, there's always a discrepancy and there's always more that you can be doing. And to say that, like, I guess, and you say like, you don't want to teach genocide and slavery so young to kids, but it happened. Like, why are you trying to hide history at a young age? Like, you're going to learn about it eventually. Then you'll be like older like us and just find out things that you didn't know. So teach it. Like, if it's history, teach about it. Like they whitewash everything else, but no, tell us the truth.
Right.
I completely agree. And I feel like, just a lot of things I feel like I knew and I learned basically not from classrooms, but being with my grandparents and, people who experienced some of these civil rights things themselves. Like my grandparents were, they were some of the first people to integrate their high schools in South Georgia. And it's just like, I definitely feel like, schools only touch on, the same token Black figures in every, class. They tell you about Martin Luther King because, like he's a safe person to talk about. They feel like, he talked about, peaceful protesting. And you're like, okay, yeah, you can go peacefully protest. They talked about, how, they talked about Rosa Parks. They'll tell you the token figures, but they won't tell you just how big of an influence Black people have had on American society. And they'll tell you about, all these, different white figures, the founding fathers and all this, but, they won't tell you about, the institutionalized racism of our country. They won't admit to something like that. They don't want to, they don't want to own up to that. And they don't want to, make that common knowledge, or, they wouldn't, talk about the effects of slavery that are still, remaining present today. And, honestly, even, in their presentation of slavery, a lot of times, they say, oh, well, they were happy, they got fit, like they don't tell us, the realities of this stuff and tell us how bad, these situations were. And, because of that, we have people who are kind of confused and, feel like, what does slavery have to do with me? That was so long ago. But they don't understand the effects that, it's having today. Right. And, whether it's high school education, college education, obviously if you take a college class that is geared at telling you this stuff, then you're going to find out, it's going to be in the curriculum. But chances are you have to go out of your way to find a class like that. You have to, that's not a common history class. If you take American history, you're not really going to learn about, Black Americans or, free slaves or, people who built this country, people who made such great contributions. You're just going to hear about the white people. And, I feel like, it's definitely doing us all a disservice, not just Black people, but, white people too, because, for you to be confused about, what's really happening in this country, and, that'll contribute to your own prejudice against other people, And so I definitely think that, if we, try to get this better in, school, and like exactly what you were talking about with massacres, we didn't hear about the Tulsa massacre on a wide scale until this year. I had no idea about that. It's horrible, And, but once we start, addressing these on the school level, in order to tell children this and instill these events and, ideas in their minds, then until we do that, we're not going to really move forward, because people aren't addressing the real problems.
Right. Yes, I definitely agree with everything that you guys said. So now we're going to start on giving the advice. We're going to start with just advice on academics. So I guess I'll start. One piece of advice that I would give about academics is to definitely make sure that you know your advisor and that you meet with your advisor like at least once a semester, because I know there were some people that they don't have a consistent advisor. I know at first I didn't have a consistent advisor. Like every time I went into the journalism building, it was always like, hey, like I'm here to speak to someone. I don't know who, but I'm here to speak to somebody. And then I think finally, like when the coronavirus happened, I started getting like this person virtually. But yeah, definitely do that. And it's very important to do it as well, just because you don't want to end up taking classes that you don't need. And you want to just make sure that you're on track. Because if you're just signing up for, oh, I think I need like 3 sciences and 3 maths, and like you already covered that, it's no point in taking that when you don't. So.
Yeah. Academic advice. I think a good thing to do is just take advantage of like the sort of tutoring sessions. At my school, we have like students, usually like upperclassmen, help with certain subjects. Like when I was studying Portuguese and I needed to prepare for like an oral, I went to this thing called Clear Labs, which is basically where you get to speak with a native speaker. It was pitiful on my end, but it was really helpful just because I was able to sort of be like recognize the sort of nuances of conversation, because I think a lot of times it's different. Just with this instance, I think it's different with just being like being able to sort of like write a sentence on like a Google Doc and then being able to like have a stream of consciousness. Like it's actually it was a lot more difficult than I thought. So I think just taking advantage of like the tutoring options that they have are really, really helpful, because asking for help it's really not something that's going to come to you. Like you really have to go and seek it out.
Right. Yeah. I would definitely agree with that because I feel like a lot of people, I know for me, I already felt like, okay, I'm at this top public university. Like, I have to, like, just do this on my own, and people are going to think that I don't know what I'm talking about or what I'm doing or that I don't belong. So I was like, I'm not going to get tutoring. And then I talked to my advisor. She was like, no. Like, she was like, you're going to either have to get tutored or, like, you're not going to pass this class. Sorry. So, yeah.
For myself, I mean, Arielle and Tatyana, like y'all both talked about it in the beginning. You say like those relationships that you have with your professors. I stand by that 200%, especially when you're starting to be in like your major courses and like when your classrooms are small. Because if you're in one big lecture hall, it's hard to be in to get a connection with your professor because you're one out of 300 people that's in that classroom. But like for instance, my cohort was like 20 people to a classroom, 19 people to a classroom. So I was able to have that professor-student relationship. And like to this day, one of my mentors that I talk to a lot and we have communications back and forth, and like I can call him up if I need it. Like he was my professor in my senior year, and he has given me like advice if I need a letter recommendation. He wrote my letter recommendation for my master's program. And so like that, the relationship that you have with your professors are like imperative, because not only does it help you in the classroom, but you never know the tricks that they have with their sleeves when you're outside the classroom. Like you never know who they can put you in front of. Like this professor my professor that I have now, like I call him, he's a colleague now because he gave me the opportunity to direct and be over my first musical what I'm looking for festival, the Black Tampa Music Festival. I was able to direct and help him do all the streaming for that. And if I didn't know him, I would never have the opportunity. And so he just gives me stuff to put on my resume. He's always giving me ideas and always like encouraging me and rooting me on. And especially for us going through a PWI, it's always good to have someone that looks like you in your corner, as many people as you can. Especially people that's in your field look like you in your corner is even better because they understand what you go through. They understand the ups and downs, and it's hard to ask for letters of recommendation. And so if you have that professor that you feel confident enough, like, even though I was scared, because he just has that aura, that dominance, that you might be a little scared to talk to him, but once you get to know him, he's cool people. But like I said, like your advisors, make sure you got a good relationship with them. Your professors, you don't have to have a good relationship with all your professors, but if you have one in your pocket, that's all that matters, because you got to talk about advisors. I had one good advisor, but it was my senior year. I had like a month before graduating. I went to my advisor. I was like, okay, I checked with you in the fall. You said I was good. We're here in the spring. You said I had to take this, and this, and I better walk across the stage. I said to my advisor, and he was like, oh, by the way, I just found out that you need 2 more classes in order for you to graduate. So I was like, but you said that I needed it. It was like, sometimes you have to double check your advisor. And so then I took upon myself to go to an advisor outside of my major. I went to an advisor who was like a science advisor, but she could still put my information, and she was able to help me. But it's just like, yeah, sometimes you need to double check yourself. Like, honestly, like, yes, they say one thing, but sometimes you might have to double check. And also, like, don't be afraid to speak up, because a lot of these departments, they think they look at the child, and therefore they expect you to act like the child. But sometimes you have to show them, like, no, I know what I'm talking about. Stand on your two feet. And if you need to get stuff done, get it done. Like, and if you have to show up in person and be like a little crazy sometimes, because sometimes a phone call is not going to work. Sometimes an email is not going to work. Right. I've done many pull-ups. Be like, oh, where's my money? Hi, financial aid. Where's my money? Like, right. When you're broke and you're hungry, you're going to do what you got to do to get that financial aid.
Yeah. That's what I was also gonna say to you, like, on top of like keeping in touch with your advisor, definitely keep in touch with financial aid, because I get like the GI Bill, the military benefit, and like sometimes they like they'll take like their time, like, wait, like I'll call them, like, wait, like we're still, like, I'm still getting my tuition paid for this semester, right? Like, they're like, oh yeah, it's coming. I was like, okay, the semester's kind of like a month away from ending. Like, are you sure? We're still on board, right? And so yeah. And then also, like what like you said, Dominique, is definitely make sure you advocate for yourself for like not only like financial aid and stuff, but definitely professors too, because I've had like 2 professors try me a little bit when it comes to my grades. And I was like, one time I had to send my professor like 2 screenshots from her feedback because she tried to take off like points from one assignment when in her feedback in another one she was like, oh, this looks fine, this is awesome. And then on another one she tried to add something in there. I really feel like she just didn't want me to get 100, but that was the difference between me making a B- and a B in the class, and the minus and plus scale makes a difference. And you're so, so I was like, listen, I had to send the screenshots. I was like, I need you to like tell me what we can do, because on this part you said this, now you're saying this. And then, I mean, she had no choice but to change it at that point because it was like her own word against her own word. So yeah, definitely don't be afraid. I mean, you can address it in a very like professional way. Like you don't have to like jump down their throat about it, but you know, as long as you have like your receipts and you're like, look, this is not going to work for me. So definitely don't be afraid to advocate for yourself.
Learn email etiquette. I am a good per my last email. I type and like I legitimately keep email threads, and then I've learned sometimes you have to like CC, like blindly CC someone that's higher than you. So then when they try you, you'd be like, director of, do you see what they said? Okay. Just, yeah, I got some guns in my pocket. So you gotta do what you have to do.
I think for me, definitely, just I'm still working on making those connections. This is like I'm still meeting people and meeting professors. But one of the things I've also realized was you definitely have to reach out to your professors. When it comes to grades and when it comes to you trying to understand different topics. I mean, I've definitely had several situations this year where I was like, you know what, look, let me go ahead and email this professor, let me go talk to them in their office hours, because I'm not gonna let you fail me. So I'm like, we gotta come to understanding, but definitely, talking to your professors, time management, like I said earlier, definitely just a huge, I think it's a cliche that everyone always, tells you before college, you need to work on time management. But, you really have to take the time to make that schedule and, like really think out how things are going to work, because, sometimes we're very unrealistic with ourselves and we tell ourselves, like, oh, yeah, we'll have time for this, we'll have time for that. But then, we end up in such situations that it's like now we don't know what to do. So time management. And lastly, I think it's just great to have a plan. Even if your plan changes, because I know my plan has changed several times already and it's still changing. Just changed today again, but just have your plan. Have an idea of how you're going to get where you want to go, and because once you have that plan, you understand what you need to do, and that helps you. Like when you get to that situation where you need the extra credit. If you planned ahead, I mean, you need the extra credit to graduate. You need the extra credit for your major. If you planned ahead, sometimes you can you already know what classes you have to take, or you already know, and that'll just help you out. One, it'll take the stress off you, for knowing what you need to do because you already know. And 2, it'll make everything clearer, and it'll help you pick more realistic choices when you're choosing classes.
Right. I definitely would agree. To create a schedule that works for you, like don't schedule like 8 a.m. and you're not going to get up for an 8 a.m. class. So definitely make a schedule that works for you. And definitely if it's possible for whatever you're majoring in or however many credits you have, try not to do a schedule where like you can have a break. Like don't do like back to back classes. Like you have 8 a.m., at 10 a.m., at 12 p.m. Like that's very stressful. So yeah, definitely I would advise not to do that. And then like Dominique was saying, as far as like emails, definitely, I know like in high school, you don't really have like a school email that you check or anything. At least like my high school didn't. So definitely just like know that that's the normal communication route that most professors and stuff go down. So definitely check your email very often. And then another thing that I was going to say about like scheduling and stuff is just to make sure that maybe invest in like a whiteboard or a calendar or something, just so you can list it off and like scratch things off. And then did you guys like as far as like textbooks and stuff, you guys always rented, right?
Yeah, I rented, and then I know sometimes if you look at your library, I know like the libraries in Florida, like sometimes you can check books out from other libraries in Florida. I don't know how they do it where Arielle and Jailon are at, but I know sometimes your library has the textbook, and you can rent out that textbook for a couple hours, but you just can't check it out. And sometimes I tell everyone, like, before you buy a book, like, try all your options. Like renting sometimes is the best option. You don't go to your school's bookstore. They're going to gyp you. They're going point blank. Do not go to your. I mean, if that's like the only thing that you can do, like, then okay. But if you can outsource your books, ebooks were like my best friend, because I was able to, because I had my laptop, my iPad, so I was able to like highlight and do into my ebooks. But if you can write in your book and you need it for that class, tear that book apart, highlight, make notes, do what you got to do, because they're gonna accept the book back 9 times out of 10. So you do what you got to do. But if it's in the library, then do it. Because if it's like a general book, they'll have it in the library for you, so you don't really have to go and check that book out, but you won't be able to write in it. But if you want to sit in that library for a couple of hours and get work out the way, do it. 'Cause I know everybody can afford their books, so
Don't be afraid to look at. Oh my god.
Oh no, you're fine. Go ahead.
Don't be afraid to look up them PDFs. I'm sorry. Don't because sometimes you get a book and you end up not even needing it for the class for real. Just don't be afraid to look up them PDFs. They'll make their money anyways. I'm sorry.
Because if the professor wrote the book, they're gonna want you to get it and read one sentence in it, and you'd be like, okay, I just spent $90 on this book that you wrote for me to write one sentence in it. Sometimes I can say if the PDF is online, look it up, and if not, sometimes you gotta fake it till you make it. Period. Right.
I definitely, what I've been getting my textbooks off of is Chegg. I don't know if you guys use Chegg, but Chegg is like a lifesaver. Like I've had books that were like $100 and I got them for like 20. So it definitely makes a difference. But definitely not the bookstore, unless like you do what Dominique said, the whole like using it temporarily, but not actually checking it out. But yeah. And then do you guys, I know this is a good one, like tips for studying, because I know even current college students like are not good sometimes with studying. So do you guys have any tips for that? I know for me, well, I'm still working on it, but not procrastinating as much and prioritizing and not cramming everything in. And then also trying to find like people in your classes that can make like a group me, and y'all can be like, okay, did you read chapter 5? Okay, I read chapter 6. Like, what did you get from that chapter? And then things like that I know are helpful for me.
Yeah. I think for me, Quizlet is definitely the free version though, because the premium version is doing a lot. But Quizlet has been really helpful. And also, I think this is like just really helpful because I like to sort of create like patterns. Is sometimes if it's like a test where I need to study like terms, I'll usually like record like on my voice memos, like I'll record a term and then I'll record like what it means, so I can just sort of have that like association in my head, and like I can just like listen to it in my headphones like when I'm just doing random stuff. So it's kind of like I'm studying without really trying. I think that's helpful, and just taking good notes is always like a great way to study, because professors love using the notes as the study guide.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait a minute, this is exactly verbatim what was on my test. You know what I mean? So
and
also good notes.
Yeah, and also old tests too. Like I know sometimes I had a professor and I was like, wait, like quiz 1-6 6 had these exact questions on here, and I was like, all right. So yeah, definitely go back and look at old tests. I mean, not every professor's like that, but sometimes they do. And also, like, I learned this in middle school is if it's multiple choice, don't second guess yourself. Like, if you see I have like 5 A's, there's no way that it's 5 A's. Like, the professor is 9 times out of 10 like trying to make you that so you can go back and change. Because
for me, I'm not even gonna hold you. I'm a huge procrastinator. Like, I do my best work under pressure. If I know I got something due in 2 days, I'm doing it in a day and a half. But don't be like, that's a good study tip. Don't be like me. There's like, my procrastination is horrible. I didn't really take that many tests during my undergrad because of my major. It was a lot of like projects, but even then too, I found myself in the lab all day and night doing work. So like, don't procrastinate. Like, if you know you have a test to study for, study it. But the few tests that I did have, I have a photographic memory, and so by me writing my notes out, I was able to like, I feel like I understand more what I write versus what I type, because I feel like it's like the rhythm of my wrist and me understanding what I wrote. It helps me learn it better, and like, read it back to yourself. If you have to do, and I do like the voice memo thing. I used to record myself and play it back, and so then I'll know for verbatim. And like, sometimes I make songs up for things when I have to do like my video production classes. But all in all, just don't procrastinate, y'all. Because I mean, I made it.
Yeah,
I'm the exception, but don't procrastinate.
Yeah, please don't, because it's the most stressful thing when like you have an 11:59 deadline. It's 11:58 and you still got like 3 more you gotta squeeze in. You're like, oh my god, wait.
You have to feel like, oh, all right. And then your friends help you try to hurry up and help you take the answer, and you looking up the answer, and no.
Right. It's not worth it.
I think definitely take try to take good notes, because when you take good notes in class, you can use those to study, and then like Tatyana was saying earlier, like, they'll definitely be on the test like later, like, those the professor usually is not going to tell you something that's not going to be on the test, or the general idea won't be. So definitely take good notes so you can use them later. And then for me, just know what you need, like know how you need to study for that situation. Sometimes you need to have some friends because you don't understand it at all, and like bounce those ideas and kind of learn what they know. But sometimes you need to get in there by yourself and limit your distractions, because I would be in there on my phone. So, you definitely have to, know how to limit your distractions, create a inefficient, productive environment for your studying. Because you don't want to be in there for hours just doing nothing, like, or kind of just half stepping. You definitely have to, try to find study habits that are actually going to work for you. And not everybody's study habits are going to work for you. I have friends. And I definitely would say, like, one of the scariest things I saw in college was, like, people that would really genuinely spend like 5 hours in there reading every first. And I was like, I can't do that. I was scared because I was like, okay, I see you doing that. You're doing good in the class, but I know I can't, like, I'm in here trying to do it with you and I can't do this. So like, but don't try to be someone else when it comes to studying. Find what works for you. And, just, if you need help, get help. But, just make sure that you can give yourself a distraction-free environment that's going to be, productive for you.
Right. Yeah, definitely that. I remember at first I was really struggling because in my apartment, like, I have my bed and then I have like a desk and chair area. And I remember, like, I was like, okay, I'm going to use my desk. It's all good. And then I was like, I can't focus. And like, my roommate was like, you have to disassociate because your bed is like literally 1 foot from you. So you're like, I could go to bed. So like, I had to start working like outside of my apartment because I just knew like my bed is literally right here. I could just go to bed. So definitely going to like the library, or if you do stay in an apartment and they have like a study room or like a business area or something, definitely take advantage of that. And like Jailon was saying, make sure like to take good notes, but also make sure that like you're not focusing so hard on, let me write down every single thing the professor is saying or every single thing that's on the board, because then at that point you're not listening, you're just trying to make sure you get everything down. But
Yeah, and if the professor allows it, like record the class. Like, because sometimes the professor will say in the beginning, like, don't record the lectures, but ask him, like, it's okay if I record, because, like I say, if you're trying to write out everything that he says, then you're not paying attention to what he or she is saying. So ask him, like, can I record? And then you can always just go back and get clarification of what he said, and then that'll help your notes be even stronger.
Right. Is there anything else you guys wanted to add?
Okay. I will say, in terms of your college decisions, I think a lot of people struggle with their college decisions, but definitely, talk to your family and talk to your friends, and talk to people who you respect their opinion, but try to make the decision on your own, because you're gonna be the one who has to live with your decision either way. And don't try to. A lot of times, people get jealous or upset about what they wanted to happen and happen for other people, but just enjoy your experience and think about your options, what's going to be best for you. Don't try to be someone else.
Right. Yeah. Especially when it comes to like major stuff, like don't feel rushed or feel like you have to do what your family wants you to do. Because I've met people in college that like completely switched course of what they even wanted to major in because they wanted to do what their family wanted them to do. But at the end of the day, this is your career, not theirs. So you gotta do what's best for you. So now we're moving into the extracurricular segment. To start with the extracurriculars, I feel like in college, you should go to, if they have it, I feel like a lot of colleges do have it, but like the organization fairs, like the tablings that they have where all the different organizations set up around campus, definitely go to those and get flyers and interest meetings and go to the interest meetings and stuff so you can talk to the current members. Because trust me, like when you walk past them, they're going to be putting a flyer in your face. So you might as well take it and just look and definitely take the time to go out and just see what interests you. Like, don't just do it because like your friends are doing it or something. Like actually do it for yourself.
Yeah, I think that. I mean, it's kind of been difficult for me to do extracurriculars because as a theater major, like you constantly have to either do like stagecraft, which is basically just like building stuff or like helping out with creating different sets, or I'm in rehearsal a lot, and I did not realize how like intense rehearsals were. So it was kind of hard for me to manage like extracurriculars and my major. But I was actually able to learn a lot more about like really being strict with time management when I did extracurriculars and when I got internships and stuff. And for some reason, my school is just like really big on internships. Like everyone's like, I got an internship in Capitol Hill. Like I think it's more of like a status thing, which it's sad. So I think there's just kind of like that rhetoric to like be pressured into getting an internship. But I would say like don't feed into that, because a lot of internships don't pay, which I would not recommend getting an unpaid internship. I mean, if you feel like you need that experience and if you feel like it's going to benefit your career, like, go for it. But ultimately, that is not something that I would advocate for, because it's just morally, it's wrong. But also just like no experience is worth my free labor. But I think getting involved, like you were saying, like student fairs and jobs and internships or club fairs are really good to sort of like get exposure, and also just because different clubs have Instagrams or like have media pages. So I would say go on, see who's involved, see what kind of work they do, and that could also be really helpful.
For me, I told myself when I was in undergrad, I wanted a degree, a job, and join an org. And I did all three. I joined one organization, and that organization really blossomed into me developing like friendships that I still have to this day. And it really just helped me feel more comfortable within my experience at USF. But when I got to FAMU, I didn't really have time to join any organizations, and so because I already had my friends, and as you get older, it's harder to make friends. I'm just gonna as you get older, and so Yes, like there, but don't join too many, because at the end of the day, your main goal for college is to get your education, and so you just have to find the ones that that work for you and with you. So,
right. Yeah, definitely don't try to, because I know a lot of people, like, they think like, okay, I have to have academic and I also have to have outside of academics as well to just have like their resume and stuff, but like having like 10 organizations that you're in, and then on top of that, like 4 or 5 classes, like you're not going to be able to prioritize that. So definitely do what's your boatload that you can handle.
For me, I definitely I didn't have much time to try to get into other extracurriculars last year, and so I kind of regret that because I definitely wanted to just figure out different things and meet different people that way. But looking to the future, I definitely want to just get into some more things that will both entertain me and connect me with different people that I can form like good relationships with. There's definitely a lot of different. There's this cultural house. It's called African American Cultural House. Yale has that has a lot of different clubs and things like that. So I definitely want to get more involved in that, and just open up to see what my other passions are. Mm-hmm. And in high school, I definitely did a crazy amount of extracurriculars in terms of with my church and just trying to. I started a club senior year, which was it was interesting. It didn't work out great, which it was an interesting experience. But I definitely want to get into some more extracurriculars, and I would even be open to some different organizations just to get myself out there.
Right. Yeah. And like Dominique said, or not Dominique, but what Arielle said about looking at social media pages and their websites and stuff for different clubs and stuff, just to see like what they actually do, like what they say is on their mission statement, if it actually matches with what they said that they do. And then also being a minority, like making sure to kind of see if they do have a Black student union or different minority clubs that you can be in. I know that the University of Florida had a program called PAT, and that's like a 3-day program before actually starting classes, and that was you were able to see like a bunch of Black professors and just like other Black incoming freshmen too, and upper Black students too. So just seeing if you guys have things like that is very helpful, just so you can have like people that look like you still in your circle. And also that is what got me my internship, is going to that program, because I met somebody and she was like, yeah, I think I have something for you. So I was like, oh, okay. And I was so glad, because I was very close to not about to go, because the introvert in me did not want me to go. But I still went. And I was really glad. She's a really good mentor now to have. So. And also, I would say try to be like a good member in your organization. Like, don't just like join it and then just kind of not be involved, because that doesn't really look good on you.
We used to get my organization. We used to call them T-shirt wearers. Like, you just join the org just to put on your resume.
Yeah.
We don't like those. I mean, like if you join one organization and you work in that organization, like right. it proves, because my organization was big, and so then I was like, I don't have any other time to do another one, so I started working in that one, and so then I was a special events coordinator, and so I had that big role, and then I was already an avid member within the organization. So, like I say, if you allow it to work, if you work in an organization, it will work for you. So,
right, yeah, and also just staying committed can make you do more than what you even wanted to do, because for the organization that I joined, it's like a ladies empowerment, like a women empowerment and like mentorship thing. And like, because I joined it, like they were like, oh wow, like you did so great this semester, do you want to be an executive board member? And I was like, oh yeah, sure. So like, you never know like where it can take you, and like that will look really good on your resume, but make sure like it's something you're actually passionate about. And just put in your best effort, and don't neglect your studies. Also, make sure you prioritize like internship organizations and your studies.
Yes, most definitely.
So now we're going to move into outside of academics and extracurriculars. I guess we could start with like roommates. did you guys have as an experience with like did you guys pick randoms, or how did that work for you guys?
My roommate was picked for me. Like it was random. My actually like the way Yale does it, your whole college assignment and like your whole dorm assignment and roommate assignment and everything is just picked for you. And so it was definitely it was interesting because like when I got there I didn't know what to expect. And our roommate was definitely he's white, he's from Arkansas. And it was different, you know. It was I never had I've never had, I mean, other than like my brother, I've never had like lived with someone else for that long period of time. And it was just so different, you know, just kind of having that. At first it was, you know, kind of a forced friendship because we lived together, but, you know, just kind of building that connection. It was interesting just, you know, having that friend to talk to. And I think we had a pretty good relationship. And so it was a cool time for me. I definitely would have rather had a single, but you know, it was interesting. It was fun.
Right.
For me, my freshman year, I lived on campus, and so my roommate I had there was great. She was amazing. We still talk to this day. And then after that, I've had the same from my sophomore until my senior year. I had the same roommates. Like I say now, like they're my closest friends. But so I never had those horrid roommate stories I used to hear from my other friends when we were on campus. I was like, I never experienced that because my roommates were my family, like my friends, my roommates, and now my family. And so I was good with their parents and things like that. And it wasn't we had 3 milks in the fridge, or we had this is your container, this is your container, this is your drawer, this is your shelf. Like I never had to experience that. But then too, like that, having livable roommates helps your college process go easier, because there's nothing that you hate more than after you've been on campus all day, coming home to a place that you don't like call home, a place that you don't feel comfortable in. And if I'm paying my rent money just somewhere that I want to feel comfortable in the living room, I want to feel comfortable walking down the hall in my room. And so, like, not everyone is afforded opportunity. But I was just grateful enough that I was able to live with my friends and we were able to have this experience together. But there's nothing more that than coming home and you don't feel comfortable in your home. Like the one place that you're supposed to be relaxed and that's your sanctuary and you don't feel comfortable, that's the worst feeling in the world. And like my heart goes out to all those college kids that's to experience that, because like I say, like you think if you're raised in a good home, you expect everyone else to have that same training as you do. But when you're moved in with randoms and you see that they don't have that same training, it makes your living experience even that much harder. And you're like, okay, so this is the simple things that you think that everyone should know and they don't know it. And so now it's just like, I have to deal with this now after I just got done dealing with a whole day of school. So.
Right. Yeah, I definitely can agree to that. I had randoms too, and I tried my best to find because I'm apartment, it's a 4x4, so I had to get 3 random roommates, and I tried my best to find somebody on room sync, all these different things, and I couldn't find anybody, or the people that I did find, they weren't trying to stay in the same apartment as me because it was the pricing of it was too high. And so I definitely learned, like you said, Dominique, people are not raised with you, and it definitely is a culture shock because you're like, oh, okay, so you're just gonna do that, all right. And then I also I had a roommate who she used to kind of have people over a lot, and so I wasn't used to that either, because I mean, when you transition from living at home and it's just you and your family and you're used to going into your own space and just having that quiet time versus living with other people and having that one person that is bringing 5 to 6 friends, and you just came back from a long day of classes and it's a Tuesday night, they have the speaker going, it's all right. So definitely random isn't always a bad thing, because I definitely made really close connections with 2 of my roommates. But if you can possibly find somebody on room sync or something like that, and trying to talk to somebody and get to know them first, that would probably be good too, just so you kind of have an idea of who you're getting into a room with. But also, I would say it's very, very crucial at the beginning, like the first day, like move-in day, or like the second day, to have a roommate meeting. So you guys can kind of establish like ground rules, like, okay, this is like just even the simple stuff, like I don't want you to touch my stuff, because some people like literally do not understand that. Like maybe that's okay. So yeah, definitely, it's very crucial to have a roommate meeting about ground rules. Yeah, because. And then, how did you guys deal with, I guess, being away from home? What is your advice for that?
It's rough. Like if like, because my family, we're close. Like my family's really close, and even now, like I was just 2 hours away from home, but I was still like wow, I miss my family, because it's just some things that you just need, like your family. I'll never forget my freshman year. I got so sick. I got like god awful sick, and I was 6 hours away from home. My mom couldn't reach me. I was in the bed in my dorm, like I need my mom. And it's just like you learn how to grow up, because it's just like, yes, they're a call away, but it's still like you can do whatever you have to do to make it home, but it's still not home. And like I said, like if you're a close knit family, like my family, we do everything. Like we spend holidays together. We come together on a random Sundays just to hang out and chill. Like you miss those things, and they'll FaceTime me in. And I'm just like, oh, this is like, I want to be there. And then like you get all upset, so you hang up early. You're tired of and so it's just, but that's just a part of growing up, especially in the field that I'm in. It's just like I had to function my mind to saying that I won't be able to be around my family as much as I want to anymore. And so it's just something you have to deal with. Like it takes a while to deal with it, but being away from your family, especially now if that family dynamic isn't as strong, then it might be a little easier for you. But if your dynamic is strong and like you're used to like always celebrating with your family, you're used to always being around your family, oh yeah, it's definitely difficult. And so when you do come together, it's like, oh my gosh, we're together, but we have to leave. Like especially like coming home to like Christmas breaks and like Thanksgiving breaks, it was like you're so happy to come home, but then it was like, wow, now I have to leave you again. So
right, yeah. But that's why it's also, I would say it's really important to at least try to have a decent relationship with your roommates. I mean, they're not like your family, but at least just like having those decent relationships, so you have like somebody to come home to and just, talk to about your day. Just how are you? Just a simple checking in on your roommates, because you never know what somebody is going through. So just a simple smile and like, hey, how are you? Are you good? Those type of things are good. And like Dominique said, definitely at least staying in contact with your family, like FaceTime or text or anything like that.
I definitely tried to call my family. I was busy a lot, and it slipped my mind sometimes. But I tried to call them, at least every couple of days. I would call them once a week if nothing else. But I wasn't very homesick, and I was kind of surprised. I definitely was just ready for a change, just to experience something different and kind of be out there on my own. And so I don't think I was homesick. And I was like, I always know that I'm gonna be home by Christmas, so I wasn't too stressed or anything. But I definitely did miss certain things. I enjoyed the freedom and enjoy being my own boss and telling myself what to do.
Yeah.
But I definitely enjoyed the company.
Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely missed their company a lot when I was at school, and that was probably I never felt like really homesick, but I will say I definitely missed their company at times.
Yeah, I definitely think the freedom in college, it can be like a gift and a curse, because sometimes you're too free, and then like sometimes yeah, so it can definitely be careful with the freedom that you have. And then also, do you guys have advice on like just social life? Because I know for me, like my experience, I thought that it was going to be like how it was in like the movies and the shows. Like you just go and you meet people, you find your like forever best friends, your maid of honors, like all of that. So it was it like hit me really hard. I think that's why I started feeling a little homesick, because I was like, wow, like, I really don't have anybody. I went in, like, I had met people through social media, got like group chats. I was like, oh, I'm bonding with so many people. It's going to be great. And then I got here and I was like, oh, we don't get along as much in person. Okay. And it really like hurt. And I was really sad. And I was really down for like that whole first semester. And then fortunately found like my niche of people. And I think I was so focused on just everybody being like, you have to find like, you know, some Black friends and stuff. But then I was like, okay, I realized like, okay, like I can make some Black friends, but I also get along with people that are not Black as well. So definitely being open-minded to the type of people you bring into your circle, but also be aware of who you bring in. And also just knowing that like you might not make friends right away, but they are coming eventually. But yes, do you guys have any advice on social life aspect of that?
What do I have to say? I mean, have fun in college, but understand you're down there for a reason. That's to get education. And like for you, you're down there to play football, and so it's like you do what you got to do. Like you have your friends, and like my friend, like my friends, we both understood that. Like, yeah, we're gonna have fun on the weekends. We're gonna turn up, and we're gonna do what college kids do, because that's part of college life. But we have to understand, like Monday through Friday, because all my like, I was out of all the majors, my major wasn't as rigorous as my friends' major, because I was the friends with the health majors and with the psychology. They was always studying for tests and doing this. So when we were in the library, I was just watching Netflix while they were actually doing books and stuff, because all my work was done, because I had to do papers and reports. I had to do stuff that was current, because like, all my stuff is current, because that's what journalism is. So when it comes to that, like Tatyana said, like you're not going to make friends right in college. Like I'm telling you right now, because you're going to start seeing different dynamics. You're going to start seeing like, and as you grow older in college years, you're going to change. Like I remember I came to my freshman year, I was in a group chat with, it was like 10 of us. And we all went out. We always went down to the caf together. It was always, oh, we got this long table. And then one night it just disintegrated. And then that 10 doing it down to my 4 that I have now. And so like, you really see who's with you. Like who really gonna be shooting with you in the gym? Like, you see. And so like I said at the beginning, it's quantity over quality. I mean, it's quality over quantity. Like, I'd rather have one good friend than 15 friends that, like, you can be a socialite and you know everybody and you say hey to everybody, but you always have that squad that you'll be able to go back to and share anything about. And so that's really, especially this is really important, especially with freshmen in general. So.
And definitely be prepared to deal with cliquey people. I've definitely dealt with that a lot as well in college. Be prepared that there's going to still be people, as like surprising as it is, because we're all like of adult age now, but there will still be people that are like, oh, look, you can't see. It's like, this is my group and you can't be a part. So, you know, you just have to take it with a grain of salt at that point.
I definitely think it's important to go experience stuff though, you know, like in terms of social life. I definitely went to a party. Some of they were kind of whack, and I was like, okay, I'm not with this at all. But you know, some I definitely enjoyed, and you know, definitely make sure you don't overdo it, but you know, definitely do it enough too. You know, make sure you know, get out there, experience stuff. You know, put yourself out there sometimes. Don't cut too loose, but you know, because some people will cut too loose, but you know. Don't cut too loose, but you know,
yeah.
I think finding that balance, and then also, you know, like Dominique was saying with your friend group, you know, don't be afraid to stay in with your friends, and instead of going to parties or even after the parties, you know, strengthen those relationships by, you know, making those memories and just hanging out with y'all. You know, we've had, you know, one of the things that I missed from my friends at high school. We always used to play spades and stuff, you know, play cards and all that kind of stuff, you know, just have fun. And that's even something like my family did. And so when I got to college, you know, I kind of set up this thing. I was like, okay, what if we, you know, some weekends we have a little spades competition, we have some, cards games, something like that. And so we would just have little card games, have a little game night, stuff like that. And it really helped to bring us closer because we're all in there chilling. It doesn't have to be a party. You don't have to be doing too much. We can just be chilling, talking, at a little competition. And it's fun. And you can strengthen those relationships without doing too much. And so even if you're not a party person, that doesn't necessarily mean you don't have to enjoy your college experience. Because I definitely, I've become more of an extrovert at college, but I have definitely been an introvert in terms of stuff that I like to do. I like to be at the house, that's me. I like to be I like to be by myself sometimes, but just kind of creating those more comfortable social settings has really encouraged me to put myself out there more and build more relationships with my friends.
Yeah,
definitely learning that, like, being in the house is where I because you go out because you go out because that's what you do in college. But like I've learned that like kickbacks and like giddies are like my favorite type of turn ups because you just chill. Like you don't have to dress up, you don't gotta put on your best fit, and like you're around people that like you already know, so like you can like authentically be yourself around people. Exactly. Like your guard doesn't have to be up as strong. Your guard needs to be up wherever you are, but it's just you can just relax more. You can hang, you can chill. So like I say, I like being in the house. So bring the fun to the house. We don't gotta go nowhere.
Right. Yeah. Me and my roommates, we had started doing like potlucks, like every now and then. Just like everybody brings like a dish, and then we all just like eat and enjoy each other's company and playing games and just things like that. I thought were really fun. But Jailon, you mentioned parties, and I actually wanted to just give some quick advice on parties because I just feel like college and the parties are very like intense. And so I definitely feel like, and I've said this like on a couple of my other episodes too, it's just definitely like if you're going out, share your location with somebody or let somebody know where you are going. Do not Uber by yourself. Like if you're a man or a woman, do not Uber by yourself. That's like, no. And then also one thing that I like noticed that like some people don't do, and once again, like that's for the whole when you're raised differently, is if you're dropping someone off or something at their like apartment and like they just drive off before you get inside, I definitely think like just if you are the person dropping somebody off, like make sure that you kind of wait to see them go inside and stuff. And if you have a designated driver, somebody at a party with you, make sure that they can still be your designated driver by the end of the night. And that's what I have to say about.
Yeah, definitely make sure you have make sure you pick your friends wisely. Make sure your friends will have your back in those situations. And even, even if they're not, because like we say, you'll have different friends, your circle will grow and shrink. But, when you're in these situations, make sure that you can trust the person that you're with. Because, things will really happen to people out here. You need to make sure that you can get back safely. And, also part of that also, has to be on you too. You have to make sure that you're, aware of your surroundings. Because you go to some of these parties and you drinking out of other people's cups, and you're not paying attention, and all of a sudden you get caught up. So definitely just make sure we're paying attention of our surroundings. And as a guy, I definitely don't worry about some of the same stuff that women worry about, but I definitely try to look out for my friends who are women because it's just I feel like it's the right thing to do. Like don't let your friends walk home alone if they're not in the condition to walk home alone, or even if it's like a long ways, like try to make sure they're safe getting home. Just be a good friend.
Right. And I was also going to say like about the looking out for your friends, make sure that you leave with the same people that you came with. Like that is so important. And I like experienced that right away. Like I went to a house party and then the police came, and only like 2 out of the 3 people I came with stayed with me. Like the other person, they just like left, and I looked on Snapchat and they were like already out at like another party, and I was like, so are you not gonna check on me? Like, so yeah, definitely be aware of that, because like Dominique said, like everybody that's around you isn't for you, and I realized that in that moment. And yeah, it's very important to make sure that you leave with the people that you came with, because a lot can happen. And then also, I was just gonna say, just enjoy like homecoming, go to football games, basketball games, just like enjoy just the social life outside of academics. Sometimes academics can be very overwhelming, and just also take the time to explore the actual city that you live in, like outside of just campus life too.
That's very important to know, like to enjoy the city that you're from, and like just to like take a break. You need a breather from when you're in school. Like so, like go to those basketball games and enjoy it, because that's how I fell in love with USF. Honestly, was because of Tampa, because of all the things that you can do. Like as you get older, there's more stuff for you to experience, and I feel as though that's another way for your friendships to go stronger, because there's more stuff to do outside of parties, and there's more stuff to do outside of just the football games and basketball games. And plus, and once you like go to athletics, like that makes you appreciate your school just that much more, because that just helps your pride. And if your school's a winning school, that's bragging rights. And so it's fun. Yeah. So if your school's so my freshman and sophomore year, my football team was like trash, like and so junior and senior year, that's when they would start getting good, going to bowl games, winning things. And so I was like, like and then this past year, FAMU, they were undefeated. So I was like, go Rattlers. And so it's fun. Like it's so many things that just add to your social life of you going to college, and things that you never expected. So I was like, never be careful, but don't be so quick to say no when people ask you to do things. So
right, yeah. And also, like you were saying earlier, like definitely listen to your conscience. Like if something is telling you do not go to that party, like listen, because there's a reason why. Definitely don't. And then also in the midst of enjoying yourself, do not like splurge like all your money, because it definitely adds up. Like you think in the book does it, but it's gonna add up, and you're gonna make a statement and be like, oh, okay, yeah. But yeah, college is definitely all about learning, but never lose sight of like that aspect, but also just enjoy yourself and be safe and make good memories with good people, for sure. And then now we're going to move into the relationship segment, which not only like just dating wise, but like friendship wise as well, even though we kind of already touched on like friendship wise a little bit, but just like my biggest piece of advice for the relationship segment is that everyone that you talk to or date, they will not be the one for you, and that is okay. And the same thing goes with friendships. Like I went into college with super high expectations for friends. I was, like I said, in a couple of group chats, and I gained really close connections with them. And then it wasn't the same bond in person. But I eventually did find my friend group. And then as far as like dating, I had one very short-lived relationship in college, but then it just ended due to coronavirus and like just immaturity and stuff. And I kind of touched on that on my topic, on my toxic relationship episode. But yeah, just definitely know that a lot of people are in college to just enjoy themselves. So don't stress as much on like relationships.
I agree. If you go out with 2 friends in your whole 4 years, you've done a great job. If you've gone out with one friend, or if you've had no relationships in your college career, you've done a great job, because like I say, you're going to school for an education. Everything else that happens is just extra. It's just extra good work. So if you go down to college and you end up in a relationship, that's extra work. That's another added bonus to your degree. And so I was never that person to be fiending for relationships, fiending for love in college. If it happened, it happened. If it didn't, so what? And so of course I wanted friendships, because your college friends are sometimes your lifelong friends. And so in the terms of relationships, if for friendships, but like in like love relationships, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, you still have a life to live, and I guarantee you, Mr. Right or Mrs. Right is soon to come.
Right.
I definitely think that in terms of relationships, you definitely shouldn't have your expectations too high, because that's just not. I mean, it's not always going to be realistic. And going into these relationships, you should definitely just know what you're looking for this relationship, know what your expectations are, and don't be afraid to communicate that with somebody else. Because the last thing you want is to have that confusion and drama that's adding to the stress that you already have from school. So for me, I definitely wouldn't stress too much about relationships. I wouldn't say I had any like official relationships this year, and so for me, I definitely think that if it happens, it happens. But I'm not stressing about it because at this point, I'm not looking to get married right now either way. So it's just I feel like as long as we just got to be on the same page here, and if you're not on the same page, then it's not worth it. So
yeah, don't waste your time. Like, don't try to force anything. And so now we're going to move into the segment where we just kind of briefly just discuss advice and our experience with being in college during the coronavirus and also during the racial climate that's currently happening, because I know that that's probably going to apply to a lot of incoming freshmen that are listening, because you guys are going to have a whole different experience than I guess our first years with the coronavirus. For me, my experience with when the coronavirus happened, I didn't think it was going to be as bad as it got. And then also our campus just kind of shut down in the blink of an eye. At first they were like, come back on March 31st, like after spring break and all that. You were like, okay. And then all of a sudden it just briefly like an email that, okay, 4 people got it on US campus. We're shutting down completely. Like, oh, all right, life has shifted. And then professors were all over the place, so deadlines weren't even certain anymore for assignments. I felt stressed. I felt emotionally stressed. And classes, like, they had a little bit less of a load because professors had to accommodate for us, but at the same time, it was still like you had to remember that, I'm still in school, even though they pushed these deadlines back. So definitely my advice is, now that you do have to do online classes for the most part, is to prioritize. This is definitely not the time to procrastinate, because online classes is so easy to procrastinate because you feel like you have nothing to do because you don't have a physical class to be in, but you definitely still have things to do. And then if you're ever just feeling overwhelmed, just limit social media intake. And I know also, just being a Black student at this time, you're dealing with the coronavirus and just looking on the news and seeing all the racial stuff that's happening. You might have some professors that say some tone deaf things or things that lack empathy. So you just have to be prepared for that, but take time to just limit your social media intake and do happy things, watch happy shows, still contact your friends and family. Be mindful of deadlines and just communication with your professors, and email them if you have any questions, and virtual hours and stuff, virtual office hours and stuff. But it's definitely manageable. It's definitely doable. You just have to take care of your mental health and physical health even through all of this. Like, definitely never lose sight of your mental health through all of this.
For me, like you said, mental health is important, especially during this time. If you have to take a break, take a break. It's not how fast you finish. Like, you don't have to finish the race in 4 years. Like, you don't have to finish just something you have to start. If you need to take a break and like legitly wrap your mind around everything that's going on, do that. Because at the end of the day, your health, your mental health, your physical health, it's like your health in general is just much more better than like a degree or whatever you might be going back to school for. So myself, it was like during when I was getting my math, I even had the idea of maybe pushing myself back to graduate in the fall, because everything that was going on and all the opportunities that I was missing out on. I was like, well, let me just push myself back and I'll just graduate in the fall instead of graduating this summer. But because I wanted to make sure that I myself was able to handle the load that was coming, because like Tatyana said, everything happened so quickly. But going for the students that's coming into the fall, like, take your time. It's going to be different. Social distance, wash your hands, be adult in this situation. Like y'all, like, you're adult age, so act like an adult. If abide by the rules, and like, if it's too much, take a step back. Like, don't let nobody pressure you to finish something that you mentally cannot handle. I know this is a lot that's going on, because some people use college as a safe haven, and some people just can't go back to that safe haven anymore. So just like I said, be careful. You are your main priority. Like, school can wait. You can always go back to school. There's no age limit on school. So if you are in school, keep going strong, understand the goal at hand, and do what you got to do to get that degree.
Right.
Definitely just, it's been kind of interesting for me, and Tatyana as well. I know my school, I was on spring break, left all my stuff at school basically, and then they were like, okay, yeah, y'all can't come back. And I was kind of like, wait, because it's like a 2.5 hour plane ride just to get to, and then you gotta, so I couldn't go back and get my stuff. I still haven't got my stuff, honestly. I'm still waiting for them to mail it. So it's been extremely stressful in that way. And then, dealing with these online summer classes and online finishing the rest of the semester, it's been hard. But, I think the best advice I can give for that is just to, try to limit your time, on social media, because it can definitely be such a distraction. Try to, try not to stress too much over, certain classes, because at this point, and on top of that, try not to overbook yourself. Because, you're already going to be, online looking at, a screen all day. And if that's not what you're, capable of, that's not your thing, just try not to kill yourself over that. Try not to, way overload yourself, because it's just going to completely add to your stress. And, for me, it's just been, I've been doing these classes, and it's been hard. It's definitely an adjustment, but you can do it. Don't doubt yourself, but also just, understand what you can and can't handle. And on top of that, just moving on to the racial climate of everything going on, one thing I will say that's going to be very different from a PWI and in an HBCU is their chances of getting one of those racially tone deaf professors is going to be much higher. You're definitely going to have at a PWI professors that are, teaching certain subjects without the cultural perspective that they need to teach them, and you're gonna run into some problems with that most likely. But don't be afraid to, I will say it's gonna be kind of hard sometimes, but don't be afraid to speak out in those situations, or try to go to a superior and air out those issues, because they're legitimate issues to have, and you shouldn't have to be put through stuff like that. So just try to try to be aware of that, and don't let it deter you. Don't let one professor's what they say hold you back. And also definitely try to protect your peace, protect your mental health in that aspect. Don't feel like you have to be a representative for your race, or for all of Black people, or for anything like that, because at the end of the day, you're you. Because it can definitely feel like that kind of responsibility when you deal with racist professors or racist students. Not everybody deserves your time. Not everybody deserves an explanation from you. And so don't feel like you have to tell anybody anything, or that you owe anybody an explanation for anything like that. Because at the end of the day, you're you, and if they choose to be ignorant and not find out about that themselves, then that's their problem, and that's them showing that they don't care enough to find out on their own. And so definitely just protect your peace and your mental health in that way. Don't feel like you have to advocate for every single person when you're you. Remember yourself in this first.
Right. And then lastly, we're going to just talk about 2 or 3 things that we feel like we were successful in and unsuccessful in college, that we wanted to share, just so maybe you guys could learn from our experience. So I would say one thing that I was successful in was maintaining communication with my professors, which I feel like made a difference. Just having that open line of communication and just asking questions. At first I felt scared because I didn't know how they would come back at me. Like, I don't understand how you don't understand the instructions, but for the most part, I've had a few that were not as understanding, but For the most part, I've had some really good professors, so definitely I was successful in that. And I was successful in maintaining a mentorship with my with the lady that I interned under, and doing well in that and staying persistent, because like I said, it's so important if you do get the opportunity to have an internship or something, just staying persistent is really good. And I was also successful, I think, in stepping out of my comfort zone and becoming like an executive board member of my organization, like doing things that I never thought that I would even do. And then two things that I feel like I was unsuccessful in was, I feel like I was unsuccessful in prioritizing, and I had good grades. I had good grades and I ended up being good at, my classes, but I definitely sucked at prioritizing for quite a while, and that would lead me into procrastination, and then that would lead me into being really stressed out. So definitely prioritize. And then I feel like I was also unsuccessful in putting myself out there more. I feel like I went to like certain things and like certain events, or tried to be friends with certain people, and it didn't work out. So I got to a place where I shut down. But definitely don't get to a place where you shut down. Do not be like me. Continue to put yourself out there until you find your group.
For me, I'm very unsuccessful as being a procrastinator. I said that before. My procrastination was horrible in college, and it's still horrible now, but we're working on it. I'm getting worked on. It's okay. I was very successful when it came to building my resume. I believed, I still got my grades and I still need what I got to do, but internships and outside classroom work were my best friends when I was in college, and I suggest that to anyone, because at the end of the day, these jobs aren't looking at what did you make in these classrooms. They want to know that you can do what you say you can do on your resume. Whatever you've learned in class, they want to make sure you can do it. And so what better way than teaching you, than getting the outside work that you need? Because in the classroom, they're going to make it seem harder than what it actually is. So when you get out there, you don't flop. And I was very successful with that. So getting extracurricular, and then my downfall was my procrastination. So
I think I was successful in making new connections, making new friends, and just basically planning on what I want for the future, what I think is going to be best, the best journey for my academics. But my downfalls, I definitely had a lot of downfalls, just in terms of procrastinating and, just I feel like I didn't do as much as I could in terms of finding different opportunities. And I definitely had, I was tied up with a lot of different time commitments, but, just finding those different opportunities that I would like to take part in. And also, just I want to be able to reach out to different professors more. But I mean, overall, I think it was a learning experience, so I don't try to beat myself up over it too much. But I definitely feel like I've learned what to do for the future, and I'm excited, looking forward to build new opportunities like that.
Right. Yeah, I definitely agree with everything that you guys said. And then we're just going to end with like a quick recap of just some do's and don'ts in college. I would definitely say just some do's, like definitely organize and go out and meet new people, prioritize your physical and mental health, and use your resources. And then don't shut down and not be involved. Don't overschedule yourself. Try your best not to procrastinate. It's very hard sometimes, but definitely try, especially in this new coronavirus online classes that we have to do. And also, like, don't spend all of your money at once. Try to budget. That's very important to learn. Just in life is to budget. But yeah, that's kind of my quick do's and don'ts.
You said all my do's and don'ts, so anything else?
Definitely just do put yourself out there. Do try to experience new things. Do try to make friends that are different than you, and engage in those conversations that are going to take you out of your comfort zone. Don't let those conversations stray you away from the things that you strongly believe and that kind of represent your core values. Don't overbook yourself, obviously, like we're saying, and don't be afraid to, don't be afraid to be wrong, and learn from that experience. Don't be afraid to, challenge yourself in an environment that people are going to express those different opinions that are going to make you question yours. But, also, like I said, don't stray too far from, your original core values that make you who you are and that you were raised on.
Right. Yeah. So now we're done with all of the advice and sharing all of our experiences. And so as usual, I wanted to end off with my inspirational segment. So the Motivation Monday quote of the week was, "Don't compare your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20." I feel like that is very important to me. It's so easy in college to compare what someone else is doing to what you're doing, especially being like a freshman. Like I was looking at upperclassmen and I was like, wow, like they are really killing the game. I'm like not doing anything at all. But you have to remember that like upperclassmen have had way more experience than you, and everyone has their own path and their own pace. So you have to follow yours. Your time will eventually come. So don't compare your chapter 1 to anybody's chapter 20. You don't know like what they've gone through to get there. So that is my advice for that quote.
For me, there's this thing that I've always dealt with. It's called like FOMO, the fear of missing out. And like I've had to learn how to like condition my mind not to be that way, because like I said in the beginning, when I first introduced myself, it was like, never compare yourself to somebody else. Like, yes, we both graduated at the same time. And yes, you might have this big executive job, but that was your time. That's your season. My season and my time will come whenever it's ready. Like my fruit will be ready to be harvested whenever it's ready to be harvested. And so like, if you're constantly comparing yourself to people, you don't have, that means you're not working on yourself. And so at the end of the day, you have this body. So therefore you have to deal with yourself. So you can't compare somebody else's victory to your victory, because your victory might be smaller, but it's your victory. And so I used to compare. Like you said, I used to be like, wow, look at them. They're really doing what they want to do. But your chapters are your chapters for a reason, because your story is written personally for you. So you can't compare, like you say, your first chapter to your last chapter, because you needed what you learned back then to help to get you where you are right now.
Right.
Definitely, believe in yourself and don't let anybody convince you that you don't belong or that you don't deserve what you're getting, or that you don't, you don't belong where you are. And just, even though things might come harder to you than other people, just appreciate your talents and your gifts and appreciate the work that you've put in to get where you are. And, if you feel like you need to be doing more, or you feel like you should be where somebody else is, you definitely, maybe you should do some more work. Maybe you should work on yourself more. But at the end of the day, don't try too hard to compare yourself, and, don't try to feel, or don't let anybody make you feel inadequate in a situation.
Right. I definitely agree with everything you guys said. So that concludes today's episode, and thank you so much, Dominique and Jailon, for all being a part of this college experience episode, and also thank you to Arielle, who had to leave early, and shout out to her podcast as well, which once again talks about Gen Z, on Instagram at Get Schooled Podcast. And that's all for today's episode of Talks with Tatyana. Make sure to follow me on Instagram at Talks with Tatyana _, on Facebook at Talks with Tatyana, and on Twitter at Talk with Tatyana without the S after talk. Turn on your post notifications and please leave ratings, reviews, and share with your friends. Until next time, remember, stay open, stay kind, and keep fighting the good.